continuing to step through those procedures ahead of stepping out the airlock. Additionally, there is an entire support team here on the ground helping to ensure today's spacewalk goes smoothly. You see some of the team members there, Deanna Trujillo, who we discussed, the spacewalk flight director today, but we'll also be hearing from Marcos Barrios once we do get into today's spacewalk. He will be the individual that will be communicating with Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers. The team here in the room in Mission Control Houston is completing a handover period. Essentially one shift handing over to the next. Also on your screen you have Capcom for today. Once the crew steps out of the airlock, we will have EV
Three, two, one, end exercise. Cycle 8 in 3, 2, 1.
As Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers continue to step through procedures ahead of the spacewalk, let's take a look at some of the other support personnel that will be helping during today's spacewalk. There on your screen you have the support team, Takuya Anushi, as well as Johnny Kim. They helped to get the crew suited up this morning, and you also see a view there on your screen, continuing to step through those procedures ahead of stepping out the airlock. Additionally, there is an entire support team here on the ground helping to ensure today's spacewalk goes smoothly. You see some of the team members there, Deanna Trujillo, who we discussed, the spacewalk flight director today, but we'll also be hearing from Marcos Barrios once we do get into today's spacewalk. He will be the individual that will be communicating with Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers. Back in the airlock, we are continuing to get views of Nicole Ayers on the left. She's EV2 today during the spacewalk, as well as Anne McLean in the suit with the red stripes. She will be EV1. First spacewalk for Ayers and the third for McLean. Today's spacewalk will be the 275th spacewalk in support of space station maintenance, assembly, and upgrades, and it will be the third spacewalk of 2025, but just the very first of Expedition 73. And pre-positioned in the airlock already, you see behind our spacewalkers today that long bag. That's the strut bag where some of the modification kit is housed. The crew will be utilizing that later in today's spacewalk to actually build the modification kit.
Three, two, one. End exercise. Almost there. Cycle 9 in 3, 2, 1. Start exercise.
McLean and Ayers are continuing to work through those in-suit light exercise activities, or ISLE. Earlier this morning, they worked through procedures to pre-breathe 100% oxygen, which helps to purge nitrogen from their bodies. And then these ISLE activities help to further purge additional nitrogen. These movements help to acclimate their bodies to the lower pressure of the spacesuit and will purge that excess nitrogen to avoid getting the bends or decompression sickness, similar to what divers on Earth might experience. At normal pressure, the suit is pressurized to 4.3 pounds per square inch. For a little context, here on Earth, the pressure is about 14.7 pounds per square inch, so that 4.3 pounds per square inch in the spacesuit is similar to what you would experience at an elevation of roughly 30,000 feet, which is why that pre-breathe and ISLE procedures are critical. Again, the primary tasks for today's spacewalk is to install a support bracket called a modification kit. This kit helps to prepare the site for future installation and deployment of the fourth of 6 new International Space Station Rollout Solar Arrays, or IROSAs. Today's installation will take place on the 2A location of the International Space Station, and McLean and Ayers will install the modification kit to the mass canister at the base of the original solar arrays. Additionally,
3, 2, 1, end exercise.
Additionally, the duo will relocate.
Oh, so close now.
Additionally, the crew will relocate a communications antenna called the Common Communications for Visiting Vehicles, or C2V2 antenna, which will ensure better redundancy in communication with visiting spacecraft to the space station.
Last cycle in 3, 2, 1, start exercise.
We're continuing to get live views inside the International Space Station as NASA astronaut Anne McLean on the right of your screen in the suit with the red stripes, and NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers on the left of your screen prepare for today's spacewalk. Their task today will be to install a support bracket called a modification kit ahead of upcoming solar array installation. The duo is currently stepping through procedures to purge excess nitrogen from their body by utilizing a procedure called in-suit light exercise, or ISLE. Once the ISLE exercises are complete, the duo will be moved into the crew lock portion of the International Space Station, which is where that strut bag is located just directly behind them. At this point, the hatch will be closed and depressurization procedures will take place. But we'll continue to provide live coverage and step through all of those procedures alongside you.
3, 2, 1. End exercise. You made it. I would say give yourself a pat on the back, but you know.
And coming into view on your screen there is JAXA, or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takuya Anushi, as well as NASA astronaut Johnny Kim. They will be assisting McLean and Ayres this morning.
Airlock Houston, you are go to pick up in step 16 of EMU pre-breathe when you're ready. As for step 15, we see that's not complete yet. That can be done at any time. Copy, okay.
And coming into view now on your screen, you do see some of the tethers that will be utilized during today's spacewalk, as well as the pistol grip tool, or PGT. And you see Onishi working to get those tethers secured to NASA astronaut Anne McLean in the suit with the red stripes on the right of your screen. Again, Onishi working to secure some of the tethers and tools that will be utilized during today's spacewalk to NASA astronaut Anne McLean on the right of your screen. And now NASA astronaut Johnny Kim will work to do the same on NASA astronaut Nicole Ayres on the left of your screen, who will be serving as EV2 during today's spacewalk. Of note, on the lower left of your screen is the pistol grip tool, or PGT. It's essentially a space drill that will be utilized frequently during today's spacewalk to secure bolts ahead of the build of the modification kit. And another view here on your screen of NASA astronaut Anne McClain and Nicole Ayers, who are spacewalkers for today. They're being assisted getting their tools and tethers and all the equipment that they need for today's spacewalk by NASA astronaut Johnny Kim and JAXA, or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takuya Onishi. The primary tasks for McClain and Ayers today is to install a support bracket called a modification kit, which will prepare the site for future installation and deployment of the fourth of 6 new International Space Station Rollout Solar Arrays, or IROSAs. The crew will also relocate a communications antenna for visiting spacecraft called the Common Communications for Visiting Vehicles, or C2V2. This antenna relocation will ensure better redundancy and communication with visiting spacecraft to the space station. You're looking at a live view here inside Mission Control Houston in the Vicar 1, the flight control room for the International Space Station. Today's team is being led by NASA Flight Director Deanna Trujillo, who you see there on your screen. And we are in a brief handover period between satellites, but do expect to get views and communications with the crew again here shortly. At this time, the International Space Station is flying 270 statute miles over the North Pacific Ocean, approaching the coast of Oregon.
System Airlock on Station 1 for step 1 of metal replacement. We have one serial number 0009 for ED1, 0010 for ED2.
Copy that. Those are good numbers, Tuck. You are go in step 1.
Go.
And that was the voice of JAXA, or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takuya Onishi, who is helping to assist McClain and Ayers step through procedures ahead of exiting the airlock this morning. Also assisting is NASA astronaut Johnny Kim. And if you are just joining us today, we are bringing you live coverage of a spacewalk outside the International Space Station, which will be the 275th in support of space station maintenance, assembly, and upgrades. This will be Anne McClain's third spacewalk and Nicole Ayers' first spacewalk. It will be the third spacewalk of 2025 and the first for Expedition 73. The primary tasks for today's spacewalkers are to install a support bracket called a modification kit in preparation for future installation and deployment of the fourth of 6 new International Space Station rollout solar arrays, or IROSAs. The crew will also work to relocate a communications antenna called the Common Communications for Visiting Vehicles, or C2V2, antenna to ensure better redundancy and communication with visiting spacecraft to the orbiting lab.
And I'm going to open your helmet pulse valve and switch fan to off.
And here on your screen, we are continuing to get views of NASA astronaut Anne McClain on the right hand of your screen and NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers, who will be our spacewalkers today. Assisting there in the middle of the screen is JAXA, or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takuya Onishi. He's currently working to configure Anne McClain's spacesuit so that it is ready to go for them to step outside of the hatch. The spacewalkers today are wearing the Extravehicular Mobility Unit, or EMU, spacesuit, which is essentially an individual human-sized spacecraft containing its own portable life support system.
Airlock, Houston, we see you've closed the thermal cover. Before step 4, we were looking for a porous plate inspection. Could you get one of that? Could you get that for us, please?
Good catch, will do it.
Copy, thanks.
Again, you are seeing JAXA, or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takuya Onishi step through procedures to configure NASA astronaut Anne McClain's spacesuit there on the right hand of your screen. Assisting is NASA astronaut Johnny Kim. Earlier this morning, McClain and Ayres completed pre-breathing exercises, which consisted of breathing 100% oxygen. And then the second phase, the crew got into their spacesuits and conducted something called the in-suit light exercises, or ISLE, which they move their legs and arms slightly, which helps raise their metabolic rate to speed up getting rid of excess nitrogen. These are precautionary measures that are done before spacewalks to ensure that the spacewalkers do not suffer from decompression sickness. And we're getting a good view inside of Nicole Ayres' spacesuit as Takuya Onishi steps through procedures to configure it ahead of today's spacewalk. The spacewalk will officially begin when the crew switches their suits to internal battery power. And on your screen, you do see JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi working again on Nicole Ayres' spacesuit. He's installing Medox canisters onto her spacesuit because the crew will be in the vacuum of space. They rely on the spacesuit. It's their primary life support system, essentially a mini spacecraft that has everything that they need to keep them safe in the vacuum of space.
is on Airlock on 1. Both crew members, Taurus flight looks good.
Copy. Both places look good. Thanks, Todd.
So Airlock on 1, step 11. Recorded GMT 11:19.
11:19. Copy.
Continuing to get views inside the International Space Station's airlock as NASA astronaut Anne McClain on the right of your screen and Nicole Ayers on the left of your screen prepare for today's spacewalk. The primary tasks for the spacewalkers today is to install a support bracket called a modification kit, which will prepare the International Space Station for future installation and deployment of the fourth of 6 new International Space Station rollout solar arrays, or IROSAs. Today's location will be taking place at the 2A, where the bracket will be installed. And the astronauts will install the modification kit to the mass canister at the base of the original solar arrays. Additionally, the crew will also relocate a communications antenna called the Common Communications for Visiting Vehicle or C2V2 antenna to ensure better redundancy in communication with visiting spacecraft to the space station. Assisting inside the airlock, Assisting inside the airlock today is NASA astronaut Johnny Kim, who you see there in the center of your screen, as well as JAXA astronaut Takoya Onishi. Next up, they're going to work together to get the safer or simplified aid for EVA rescue installed onto today's spacewalkers. The safer is essentially a jetpack that would help propel the crew to safety should they become untethered.
0012 for the expanded MENOX for step 18.
Good numbers. Thank you.
Once the safers are installed, the duo will complete some additional checks of their spacesuits to make sure everything is configured properly, including some communications checks with the team here on the ground. And then they'll get the go to move into the crew airlock for depressurization. Once the crew airlock is at a pressure of 0 or equivalent to the vacuum of space.
Moving into pre-breathe clock, 1124, 1124.
1124, copy.
Again, once the crew airlock is depressurized down to vacuum, the crew will get the go to open up the hatch and step outside the International Space Station to begin work for today's spacewalk to install an additional set, to install a mounting bracket ahead of the installation of an additional set of International Space Station rollout arrays, as well as to relocate a communications antenna for visiting spacecraft to the International Space Station. Today's spacewalk will be the 275th in support of space station assembly, maintenance, and upgrades. And we are now starting to get a view of the safer or simplified aid for EVA rescue, which will be installed on both McLean and Air's spacesuits. The Safer is essentially a jetpack that the astronauts wear when they perform spacewalks as a precautionary measure in the unlikely event that they were to become untethered from the space station. Safer or simplified aid for EVA rescue would allow the crew member to safely propel back to the International Space Station. Working to help install the Safer or simplified aid for EVA rescue is NASA astronaut Johnny Kim on the left of your screen. Also assisting is JAXA or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takuya Onishi. They'll work together to get that installed on NASA astronaut Anne McClain's spacesuit first. She will be serving as EV-1 during today's spacewalk. She's wearing the spacesuit with the red stripes. Following this, they'll work together to get Nicole Ayers' space Safer installed on her spacesuit. She's wearing the spacesuit with the unmarked. She's wearing the spacesuit that is unmarked today and is serving as EV-2. And as NASA astronaut Anne McClain continues to get her safer, simplified aid for EVA rescue installed on her spacesuit, let's take a look at the tasks planned for today's spacewalk.
Our day will start with astronaut Anne McClain as EV1 in the red stripes and Nicole Ayers as EV2. Nicole will carry an 8-foot-long strut bag, and Anne will carry the tool bag. Both crew members will translate to the port side of the International Space Station, heading to the work site of the Modification Kit Structure, or MOD Kit. At that location, they will secure their two bags and begin the installation activity. Nicole will start the modification